Hi, it's Sandy, and today I'm bringing you my November TBR. In the month of November, Smash and Gem are running Tomes and Treasures Round 2. So I've put together a ridiculous TBR based on the prompts, because there is a bingo board, which I will put up here, and yeah, the prompts go with the bingo board, and Maybe Me has picked a book for every square. Based on how I've read this month, do I think I will complete it? Absolutely not. But I think right now what I need is like a larger monthly TBR to try to give me options to pick from, because I feel like I'm slumping, but at the same time I'm not mad, because I'm not like, I don't know, I'm just in the mood to do other things that aren't reading, so yeah. But at least if I've got options, then I can just pull from that and see how I go. Okay, so what I'm going to do, as you might expect, is I'm going to go through the prompts, and I will tell you what books I hope to read for those prompts. As always, I will link all the information for Tomes and Treasures down there, and also Gemma and Ash. The first prompt is to read a book with travel, and for that I've decided to pick A Discovery of Witches. This is not a TBR book, this is a previously read book, but I've just really been wanting to reread this series, so I thought pick up the first one. It has travel in it. They go from America to England. I can't remember exactly where Harvard to Oxford. Like, they travel from Harvard to Oxford and other places, so definitely it has a travel element in it. This book follows Diana, who is a witch, but her powers aren't really that good, despite the fact that she comes from two very strong lineages of witches. And in this world there are witches, vampires and demons, but they are not allowed by their own council to kind of mix. So it's sort of forbidden for witches to mix with vampires or demons, vampires to mix with demons or witches, and demons to mix with the witches or the vampires, if you know, hopefully that makes sense. So they're not allowed to intermingle. They can intermingle with their own kind, but not with each other, because they become more obvious to humans when that happens. But Diana is working, I think, at Harvard, I can't even remember now, and she pulls a manuscript from the stacks in the Bodleian Library, and it sort of triggers a series of events, because this book has been missing for hundreds of years and everyone is looking for it. The vampires, the witches, the demons, they're all looking for it, and Diana's the first one to find it in years. And so these creatures start to coalesce around her, and one of whom is Matthew, the vampire of this story, and he is, or one of the vampires, our main male character, basically. Oh my god, my brain's not working. And of course, you can imagine this is a sort of fantasy romance. Matthew and Diana have this sort of forbidden romance going on, because he is drawn to her and he just wants to protect her, and she has no idea what's going on, doesn't know who to trust, and is kind of picking up the pieces as she goes. Next is to read a book with a weapon on the cover, and for that I've chosen Falling Hard for the Royal Guard. I've already started this book and I really need to actually continue with it. It's because it's on my Kindle and I started reading the Kindle version and my brain just has gone because it's a Kindle edition. But as you can see, our lovely soldier here has a rifle of some kind with a bayonet. So that is a weapon, and did not think I would find this on a contemporary book. That I was going to have to grab some kind of fantasy, which I do not have. This is about our main character who lives and works in the Tower of London. It is a contemporary romance, so it's not like back when. It's like currently she is, like, she works on the counter for tours, so like people pay her to get in to do the tours and stuff like that. And I'm assuming she falls in love with one of the royal guards. I'm just guessing. Next prompt is to read a short book, and for that I will be carrying over quite a few books from October's TBR, because that has not gone well. So for this one I've chosen That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. It's only 260 pages. I'm using short book as in anything under 300 pages, so 260 is right in that wheelhouse. It's nice and short, and also massive text, so hopefully this will be quick to get through. I'll be honest, I don't really know anything about this book. I just really want to read it. Next is to read a book with religion or gods, and for that I've taken another carryover, and that is The Silence of the Girls by Matt Barker. This is a Greek retelling, so we've got Greek gods, you know, the religion based around those Greek gods, and this is a retelling of the Trojan War from the point of view of some of the women who were involved. I'm not entirely sure who. As we all know, I'm having a rough time with Greek retelling, so I've been scared to read this, and putting it off for another month seems like a good thing to do. Next is to read a book with an animal companion or an animal on the cover. Again, this is kind of like a tide over, but not really, and that is Shadow Study by Maria V. Snyder. This has Kiki in it, I'm assuming, animal companion, we all love Kiki, and this is technically October's book for the Chronicles of Xavier DeLong, but I will probably read it in the first week of November because we've not even done the live show for the last 2 books, so it's going to get like punted back a little bit. So yeah, I will read this at the start of November. With the end of the Glass trilogy and with the restart of the Study books, we go back to Yelena and Valak, and other than that, there's not really much I know about this. Next is to read a book that scares you, and for that I've chosen The Fiance Dilemma by Elena Armas. Yeah, this book, I don't know why I ordered this book. I do know why I ordered this book. I thought it was a standalone. It is not a standalone, it is the second book to whatever the first book was, The Long Game, I think it was called. I hated The Long Game. I DNF'd The Long Game. I hated it so much. And so the idea of reading this scares me, but I want to give it a fair chance. It is like a standalone companion, so I don't think you necessarily need to read the previous one, but I've already like started reading this to like see what it's like. And there are bits that obviously you find out in the first book that I didn't know, so I might have to look up like a rundown of the first book because I don't even have it to read it anymore. It's gone, and this could be a DNF. This could well be a DNF. I wanted to read it when it first came out so that I could return it to the shop if I didn't want it, but time has passed now, and now it's just freaking me out for my TBR. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know what this is about other than she is the sister of one of the characters from the last book, and he is the friend of one of the characters from the last book, and they pretend to be engaged. Let's hope it's better than the last one. Next is to read an epistolary book. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's how we're going with it. And honestly, for that, I really don't have anything on my TBR that will fulfill that, so it was going to be a reread. I could have reread A Dowry of Blood. I did think about that, but considering Smash used it as her example, and I've not reread this in a while, and I've really been wanting to reread it, I think we all know what I'm going to read. It was put on Smash's recommendations, so I'm taking it as an epistolary book. I can't even say the word. So epistolary, oh my god, it's basically something told in letters, and these are logs. Like, they are, like, the way Smash said it is these are letters to whoever finds this, basically. And yeah, I'm jumping on that. If I can read this for this prompt, I will reread this book, because there's nothing better to get you out of a slump than a book that you absolutely adore. If you don't know what The Martian's about, hello, welcome, you must be new here. The Martian is about Mark Watney, and he is on a mission to Mars with his team when there is a massive storm kicked up and they're told to evacuate. Unfortunately, Mark is left on Mars, and he has to kind of find a way to survive and contact Earth. This book is one of my favourites of all time. Mark Watney is one of my favourite characters of all time. He's got such a dry, acerbic, sarcastic humour. He deals with everything through humour. Like, he is in a life or death situation every second of every minute of every day on Mars. Like, he is on a hostile planet. He can't just walk outside. Like, there's nothing lighthearted about this book. But Mark makes it lighthearted. Like, I love the way that Andy Weir writes his characters, because Mark, honestly, is just incredible. And I challenge anybody to read this and not like it. Because I know people who really aren't into sci-fi, and I'm not into sci-fi. Really not into sci-fi, who've read this book and loved it just because Mark is such a funny character. Next is to read a book with dual tones or foiling on the cover, and for that again is another carryover, and that is A Werewolf's Guide to Seducing a Vampire. As you can see, it has some lovely foiling on the cover. Ta-da! And this is the third in whatever series this is called. The first one is The Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon, and this is the third book. I was supposed to read it this month, but obviously did not get to it, so I added it to this. It works perfectly for the foiling, and again, I'm still really excited to read it. This follows Ben, who is, I'm pretty sure, the boss of the main character from the first one, or a friend of the main character of the first one. I can't remember, but we are introduced to Ben earlier, and we know that he, although he is a werewolf, he is really kind, really sweet. He's not like the werewolf type of character where it's like aggressive and stuff like that. He's also very intelligent, which is something that you don't often see in werewolf characters. The vampire character in this, I believe, is some kind of like, I don't even know, but she's got daggers. She's got daggers, and he's wearing a sweater vest. Like, the flipped script, which I think I'm really going to enjoy. Next is to read a sci-fi book or a book involving science, and for that I've decided to pick up the new Scarpetta novel. Normally I pick these up straight when they come out, but I had a massive TBR this month, so it's getting punted to next month's TBR. And this is, I don't know if I said, Identity Unknown by Patricia Cornwell. This is the newest book in the Scarpetta series, and Kay Scarpetta is a forensic pathologist, so she looks at it as a crime series, but from the point of view of the pathologist, not from the detectives and stuff like that. So there's always science in these books, because she's looking at, you know, the dead bodies and stuff that come in through a lens of science, and it's like a thriller type book. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. This follows a character who's found, a body that's found in a creepy old theme park, and it's someone that Kay Scarpetta knows, and so the stakes are kind of like elevated from there. Next is to read a book with your favourite romance tropes. For that, I've chosen Love Like Farms by B.K. Burrison. I have been wanting to read this book for the past couple of months, but I've wanted to leave it till closer to like Christmassy holiday time, so I think I've popped this on my November TBR and I can read it later on in the month. Or, you know what, I could read a Christmas book in the middle of like summer if I wanted to. It's my TBR. But this is the first in a series of companion novels, so I really want to get this started. I've heard amazing things about the series. I've got the whole series, so let's just hope that I enjoy this. This is about our main character who wants to save her, I don't know if it's her family's Christmas farm or Christmas tree farm, but it's a Christmas tree farm that she's loved since she was a child, and so to do this she creates this image of herself, this wholesome image which includes a boyfriend that she does not have, and so enter the fake dating trope. I love the fake dating trope. If there's some like proximity tropes as well in there, but I love fake dating. I always think it's hilarious that people think that they can get into these scenarios and not fall in love with each other in a romance book. It's great. Next is to read a book featuring healers, which would be fantasy or modern, and I feel like I'm stretching this one a bit. I feel like it's justified, but I feel like I might be stretching this a bit. So I've decided to pick up Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. I don't really know, I just know this is supposed to be a Taming of the Shrew retelling, and I really love 10 Things I Hate About You, which is another Taming of the Shrew retelling. So I just want to see if I like this or not. It is about Dr. Dill, who is a doctor, and he does not believe in love, but he's on a show where he like talks about love and it goes viral that he says this, and so he needs to make it look like he actually does believe in love, I think. I'm not even sure, but I think also the female main character's mum wants her to have an arranged marriage before she can get access to her trust fund or something. I could be totally wrong about this, but both of them enter into this fake relationship to benefit each other. Again, a fake dating. He needs to fix his reputation, she needs to get something from her family, and so they enter into this fake relationship to try and, you know, do that. But I'm counting this for featuring healers because Dr. Dill. Doctors are healers. Dr. Dill. I don't know what kind of doctor he is, but I believe he's he's got a stethoscope and everything and he's wearing scrubs. So I'm assuming some kind of medical doctor, which in my book makes me healer. Next up is to read a graphic novel or manga. I have approximately, and by approximately I mean exactly three graphic novels. Two series and one standalone graphic novel. And I think we all know which one I'm going to choose to reread because I've read them all and I don't have any more incoming. And that is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. I've been due a reread of Heartstopper for so long, and you know, if the prompt calls for it, why not? Again, this is something that'll probably help with the slump. Will I end up rereading all of them? Maybe. Who knows? But I'll definitely reread the first one. And yeah, that's if you don't know Heartstopper, again, you must be new here. Heartstopper is about Nick and Charlie who go to an all-boys school. There's also an all-girls school that's like right next to it. And Charlie has been outed as gay the previous year and has gone through a lot of bullying and things like that. And then in this new year, like new term time, he's sat next to Nick and he starts to get a crush on Nick, and Nick is straight, so you know nothing's going to happen. But then Nick starts to realise that he might not be as straight as he thinks he is. And this is about these two boys falling in love, and it's so heartwarming and heartfelt and just cozy and lovely and just, oh, I love Heartstopper so much. It does start to get like, I don't want to say darker, but for lack of a better term, darker in future, like in the future books, but more in a sense of like themes that work with the story. Like it doesn't suddenly turn into like a thriller, like it's not that sort of dark, but like you've obviously got Charlie having been bullied, how it affects his mental health, you know, and the sort of outcomes of things like that. You've got other characters, you have other LGBT characters, you've got sapphic characters, you've got trans characters, all of whom are negotiating being a teenager and being, you know, different from their peers. The next prompt is to read a book involving music or to read an audiobook. And for that, I've decided to pick up Music in the Dark by Sally Magnuson. This is a book that I've been gravitating towards and I've just not had a chance to put it on a TBR, but finally my time has come. It is literally called Music in the Dark. It is about a main character who is a musician. You know, it is a book involving music. She writes songs about the land, the kin who lived and worked on it for generations. It's about the hardships of people in Scotland and tenement flats, and I think going back to things like the clearances and stuff like that, I genuinely don't know. At first I thought this was going to be like a paranormal, like she lived through the clearances and now is in like more modern times, but I'm not entirely sure anymore after rereading the synopsis. But I just love books set in Scotland written by Scottish authors, and I'm pretty sure Sally Magnuson is a Scottish author. But yeah, we shall see. Hopefully it's a good one. The next prompt is Lucky Dip. So you are to use a wheel, your TBR jar, a number generator, etc. to find your next read. And so I will give you over to past Andy, who filmed a little while ago, to find out what we'll be reading for this prompt. Hello, it is Andy from the far distant past, and I'm here to do a very sad sounding pick. I just wanted to give everybody fair notice if they're going to have to read threads next month, because there's like 500 people that have joined this buddy read, so I feel like everybody needs a bit of time to prepare. So it is the 8th of October and I'm pulling this now so you all know. I will tell you all if we're reading it in November or December, because there's only two left, and that means that I will know which one is getting read in December and which one's getting read in November. So let's see what's going where. So do you know what? This is the one that will be getting read in November. Oh, I put that upside down there. You are safe for another month, so get ready, because this month I have Bobby's pick, and that is Rambling Man by Billy Connolly. So Rambling Man by Billy Connolly is my November pick. I will still do a pick in December, but we all know what it's going to be. And as you saw, we will be reading Rambling Man by Billy Connolly. This is his newest, or not newest now because these other books come out, but his sort of newest biography type book. I love these books because they're just stories about his life, and it's basically, if you've seen his shows, his like stand-up shows, it's basically his stand-up stories but written down in books. I've got all of the rest of his books, and this one I think specifically is about his travels because he has been a voracious traveller throughout his life, and yeah, just the stories and things like that of places he's travelled and funny things that have happened to him, and I love these books and I'll be so sad when they end. The next prompt is read a book from your backlist, and honestly anything from my TBR could have worked for that, but I've decided to choose Our Last Days in Barcelona. I am nearing the end of the series. After this there's only one book left and I am so excited to continue on with this series. This follows the Perez family. Each book follows a different relative, and in this we are going back to the original sisters. So the sort of first story focuses around a granddaughter of these sisters and like one of the sisters, and there's another book which follows one of the sisters, and then we go back to other family members back in the past. But this one swings back round and we are now talking about one of the sisters and their mother. So it's split between the two perspectives, so their mother back in the past and one of the sisters in the present, as the book is in 1964, as she's going to Barcelona to look for her sister, who's one of the ones in the previous books, because she has gone missing in Barcelona. Whilst she is there, she also uncovers a family secret, which is where her mum comes in, because it's a family secret to do with her mum and her time in Barcelona before the kids grew up and they were in Cuba. So I'm really excited about this. Their mum is such a strange, not a strange character, but she's not great. I don't like her, but it'd be nice to see a little bit from her perspective to kind of get more information and round her out a bit more. So yeah, I'm always really excited about these books. They have always been excellent and I'm almost at the end. The next prompt is to read a book with a map, and for that I've grabbed Night Study by Marie V. Snyder. This is the next book in the Chronicles of Exia Read-Along that we need to read. This is technically November's book, so I'll be reading it probably closer to the end of November, and in every Exia book there is a map of Exia and Sitia, so excellent book with a map. This is book like 8 in a series, so I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but again we are still with Yelena and Valak. I'm assuming. I've not even read the back because I've not read the one before this, so join us and we can discuss it in the live show. Next is to reread a favourite or continue a favourite series, and for that I've decided to read The Legacy of Arneson House. This is actually an arc that I have, so this book isn't out yet. I think it does come out in November, but it is the 4th book in the Edinburgh Nights series, the first being The Library of the Dead, and I'm so excited to read this. I'm so excited that I got an arc for this. I only got it recently, so I knew I had to put it on next month's TBR because I thought I was going to have to wait until the paperback came out because I have all the rest of them in paperback, and so obviously I need to wait so it matches. But now I've got the arc, I can read it as soon as I can get to it, and I'm really, really excited. This series follows Ropa, who is a young girl and also someone who has magic. She is a ghost talker, and so what that means is she can talk to ghosts and negotiates a deal to pass on messages to their family, and she's paid for that job and takes it back to her family, who are her gran and her sister, and they live in like a static caravan type thing, or trailer Americans would call them, in a sort of slum area in Edinburgh, because this is a kind of dystopian future Edinburgh, where it's like one of those ones where although it's futuristic they more rely on things like horses and rather than cars, because fuel and stuff has become so expensive and so only rich people really have cars. But there's also magic, and so there's different places. Like you have Scottish magic, which is taught in one place. You have magic from other countries. Ropa herself is both Scottish and Zimbabwean, like the author, and her magic is kind of not really respected because it is not in line with any particular school, if that makes sense. I love this series. I think T.L. Huchu has done a fantastic job of creating this futuristic or future dystopian style Edinburgh, and even the last book was actually at Dunvegan Castle, which is on Skye, And I've been to Dunvegan Castle, so it was really nice to have somewhere that I can imagine. And honestly, the detail, the level of detail that goes into these books, it's unparalleled, but I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm going to shut up. Next is to read a book with night, stars, or moon on the cover or in the title. And for that, I've picked up Written in the Stars. This both has stars and the night sky on the cover, and it's also got the word stars in the title, so I am smashing this prompt. This is the first book in this companion trilogy by Alexandra Bellefleur, and honestly, all I know about it is that it's a sapphic romance. I know nothing else about it. I'm trusting the process. Trusting the process. The next prompt, and honestly, this was the hardest one to fill for me, is to read a portal fantasy. I do not really have fantasy on my shelves at all, or on my TBR shelves. I thought I was going to have to go back and find one on these shelves, but luckily I had one book that fit this very difficult prompt, and that is The Star and the Strange Moon by Constance Sayers. I really struggled with what a portal fantasy is, but this one actually does fit the bill. So this follows two timelines, one in the past and one in the, again, present for the book, so 2007. And in the past, there was a film being made, and strange things were happening around the film. And then the main actress for the film and the main character, or in the past for this book, is sucked into the film. Like, she's pulled into the film. And then in the future, when this film is being played back, there's footage of this woman who went missing in the past that could not have possibly been obtained because she went missing in the past. And so I assume the main character from the future finds out or realises that our past main character is actually stuck in the film. And I am counting this as portal fantasy because she's been pulled into somewhere that is not the real world. Like, she's been, if we're talking about other portal fantasies that I've got, we've got Narnia, where they're pulled into Narnia. You've got Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, where she's pulled into Wonderland. Things like that. But in this, the character is pulled into the film. So, like, she exists within the world of the film, but not the real world. So, you might want to argue with me and say it doesn't count, but I'm counting it because otherwise I could just read one of the Narnia books, which is like a third the size of this. So, I'm counting it. And the last prompt is to read a book with disability rep. And for this, I'm also using a carryover book that I've not had a chance to get to yet. And that is Another Elizabeth by Elle Mitchell. I am really excited to read this book. I did start it and then put it down because I needed to read something else. But I really want to get this read as soon as possible because it is more of a spooky season book. Like, these books that I'm reading are kind of transitioning from like spooky season into like Christmas season. So like, this will be one that I sort of read at the start of the month rather than later on. Probably. Who knows? I don't even know. This is a large TBR, so nobody knows what's going to happen. This book follows our main character, whose name is Elizabeth. Obviously, because it's another Elizabeth, and she has recently been diagnosed with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is what I have, which is why I have this book, even though it is a horror, and I do not like horror. And the thing about Elizabeth is she has always dreamed of killing someone. She has this goal in her life to kill someone and get away with it. But now that she's been diagnosed with EDS and her body is starting to fail her, she realised that she needs to pick up the pace and she needs to get this done before her body is no longer capable of allowing her to do this. The only thing is, though, she finds that she actually really likes killing people, and so she becomes a serial killer. Like, so many things about this book. Like, not only is the main character not a good person, but is also a disabled person who's a serial killer. Like, this book, I'm so excited to read this book, but I'm very, very, very scared. It does have a list of, like, content warning, not a list, but it explains that, like, these are the things that are in here, and these are the things that are not in here. Like, for example, I appreciate that it says there's no animal harm, because that is the one thing that I really just cannot deal with, is animals being harmed in books, especially egregiously. Like, again, I've said before and other things, I can kind of understand if you, like, it's a situation where they're, like, riding on horses and stuff like that because it's a fantasy and blah blah blah, and the horses go down, but like you don't need to like describe to me how the horse is affected like that. Just say it in passing and leave it there, because otherwise I can't do it. So yeah, I appreciate that it says things like that, but I'm really interested in how this is going to go, and I really need to get to it. So there are the books that I am hoping to get to at some point in the month of November for Tomes and Treasures. If you are also doing Tomes and Treasures, let me know down below. Like I say, I will link everything so you can go and watch Smash and Gems announcement videos and get all the information from them, because they will do a much better job at it than I ever could. If you want to let me know that you were here but you don't want to sit and leave a comment, if you leave me some kind of dragon emoji or some kind of D&D-esque style emoji for Tomes and Treasures. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye!